go hit start broadcast up top. Where's that? Orange.
Welcome to today's webinar, How Well Do You Build Culture and Lead Learning in Your School? NASSP Building Ranks Assessment Tools help provide answers. As you can tell by my voice, I am not John nor I will be both presenting and moderating today. If you have technical problems, please go to webinar attendee support at the toll-free number that you see on the slide, and also provide the webinar ID 987-785-011. If you're tweeting today's webinar, please use the hashtag NASSP webinar. You can also follow NASSP on Twitter. Our handle is @NASSP. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/principals. Today's discussion is being recorded and will be available on our website within 48 hours at www.nassp.org/webinar. And with that, I would like to bring in Joe Noctor, which is me, to start the discussion. And just to give you a little background, I am the Director of Professional Learning at NASSP and have been working closely with leaders across the country to develop the products that we're talking about today. I've been at the district level, the state level, the national level with such organizations as the GED Testing Service, the National Board for Professional Teaching Standards, the College Board. So I've looked at leadership from many different perspectives, and today I'm happy to share with you perspectives that we're hearing from leaders across the country. It's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and I really thank each of you for spending time with us today, and to celebrate you as the linchpin of your school, because you hold in your hands the success and well-being of each student and adult. Our goal today is to highlight some resources to assist you as you lead your teams to create a powerhouse. So I'm going to start by asking you a question and asking you about your perceptions of your leadership from your staff's vantage point. Take a moment, reflect, and if you want, you can share on the side panel or hold these thoughts for as we proceed in the discussion. But if you were to step back and think and ask your staff, what's one thing you think your staff would tell you you do well and they would like for you to continue to do? And to strengthen that a little bit, what's something that your staff may tell you you could start doing that would help make your school a stronger school? And as you come up with those answers, and as we proceed through the webinar, think about, do these products and does this process support what you're doing? For those of you who may have attended the prior webinar on our Building Ranks framework, I'm going to repeat a few of those slides because that framework is essential to understanding what the tools are. Everything we're doing is in response to the new leadership standards that address what a school leader's role is today. And they expand from what we've been doing over time, where everything was accountability, to more the new ESSA requirements of well-being. So as you can see on this slide, each of the new professional standards for educational leadership start with each student, and they address not only their academic success, but also their well-being, the support and care that's required. But more than just each student, these new standards expand to address each adult. So with all of these new guidelines and requirements, what does a school leader need to know and be able to do? Because of these standards, you as school leaders are asking, so what do these look like in practice? Now that these new standards are out there, how do I change what I'm doing to ensure that I can really address the needs of my school population? What we're talking about today is the Building Ranks framework, that in a nutshell, this framework is aligned with the PSEL standards. It's practical and geared to help you as a practicing principal strengthen the practice in your school. It's all research-based when you're asked that question, valid and reliable, and we're happy to report we're getting a strong reception in the field. In addition to the practitioner's guide and online community and coaching that are resources that help lead you and your school staff through the practice, are diagnostic tools that help you understand your strengths and areas where you may want to work with your leadership team to support your school. All of this work is based on standards, not just the PSEL standards, but other standards in the field like the ISTE standards, the Wallace 5, the school leader paradigm that some states are using. And these standards help define the success for each student. So what does the logic model look like that we put together? And we've convened panels of experts from around the country to inform us on what would this look like. And you notice that leadership is the foundation. So everything you do through building culture and leading learning supports the adult success, and not just their professional success of how well they lead in the classroom, how well they support your school in whatever role they have, but their well-being, how they're personally successful. And if each person in your school is successful, then your students will be successful. So the major framework is through two domains, building culture and leading learning. And as you reflect on what you thought your team may say you do well, or that you may need to build, look at those dimensions under building culture and leading learning and see if you see them reflected there. All of it comes down to this one framework for you, and we start with the why. And if you're familiar with Simon Sinek's work, most people talk about what they do or how they do it and don't stop to get people excited about what they're doing by saying the why statement. Why are we here? And all of us are here to prepare the whole child for success in the global community. So then we've got our why. What is it that you do as a school leader? And these are a lot of action words. You strategically, collaboratively, and purposefully equip, encourage, empower, and drive. Now stop back and think about that for a job description. All individuals in your community to reach their highest potential. And if you think about that logic model we just showed you, how do you do it? You do it through leading, learning, and building culture. In this Building Ranks framework that will be available in June, you are a true superhero, but because you lead a school. But if you're going to fly high, it's a collaborative effort, including your students, your teachers, your parents, to broaden your leadership. So the Building Ranks is designed for you as a practitioner's guide, and it's structured for ease of use. Each one of the domains you saw in the logic model will be supported by a why statement and a what statement, strategies and actions that you can use. And every principal wants to hear from their colleagues across the country. You've got illustrative examples from elementary, middle, high school principals in rural, suburban, urban school districts. So many, many vantage points, reflection questions that can guide not only your practice, but you can bring your team together to help understand. So you can dip in and out of this book. You can adapt the strategies and actions and see how others have applied them. You can also work with your leadership team. So all of this, the dimensions, the strategies, the actions, are also grounded in research, and we will show as an appendix how this research is reflected in what you're doing. And good news is we sent this out for review from several leaders across the country, and it's been very well received by the field. These are just 3 of the endorsements that we thought might catch your eye. And I love where Daniel Pink says that you're turning your school into a powerhouse. So that's a word I love and would love to see used more often. And then you can see Linda Darling-Hammonds as a leader in instruction in schools, her vantage point. And Dan Domnich is the head of the Superintendents Association. So having them reviewed and many others review this, you're seeing that it's well received. So how can you identify your strengths related to these new standards? These standards and expectations are newly defined. How do you look at your practice and get support? We've come up with 3 ways, 2 perception surveys and 1 performance assessment. Let's look at those surveys. The first survey is a perception survey of your leadership. And you administer this survey to yourself, to your supervisor if you choose, to your certified staff and your non-certified staff. Those 15 dimensions you saw, there are 5 different items per each dimension. It's all online. It's all easy to access and easy to use. And if you look at this page, this is what a page of the survey would look like. And if you look at the items themselves, you'll notice that the dimensions are distributed throughout. For example, if you read the first, provides an environment where students' needs drive organizational decisions, and then go down to the 4th, sustains effective partnerships with a broader community to achieve school success. And then on down to 6, expects every person to act in accordance with the values of the school community. You can see that it rotates among the different dimensions. The scale, the Likert scale, is very easy to follow. You strongly agree, you disagree, or strongly disagree. And not applicable is because this survey is administered to both certified and non-certified staff. So we expect some of these questions the non-certified staff may not have a direct response to, so they can choose from non-applicable. You can see they're straightforward questions created by educational leaders, but then we had teachers review them to let us know if the words were understandable to them and modified it from that respect. But it's really all about the results. If you administer this survey, what information are you going to learn that will support you as you lead your school? It's a detailed comparison by items and dimensions. You'll also get respondent comments to open-ended questions and guidance on how to use the report. So let's start with what you may see as a comparison between you on the red line and the blue line is the mean of all of your other respondents. Now, this is a real response from one of our pilot principals. And as you can see, 3 is agree and 4 is strongly disagree. So this principal was very happy with the ratings they received from the group. At the bottom, you can also see another interpretation. At the top are the line chart. At the bottom, you can also see the mean by groups. and it's ranked by the others from highest to lowest. So you can see this principal did very well. Nothing was under agree, and they range from agree to moving up to strongly agree. Another look you get at this is by response group. So as you see on the right side, all of your building culture ratings are in the top, and you can see your, as the principal, is a red line, and all of the other respondent groups, the mean of the other respondents groups. And the bottom, you see the leading learning results by each of the respondent groups as well as the leaders. Notice anything interesting about these responses? The leader is seeing themselves higher in the building culture and a little lower in the leading learning. If you look at the chart on the left-hand side, what do some of these things mean? So for example, on student-centeredness on the far left of the building culture, you see that everyone's pretty much clumped together. So on the left-hand side, that's a known strength. If you're in strongly agree, you and all of the respondents strongly agree that you understand student-centeredness and you really have it well represented in your school. Then if you move over to the far second from the right and see ethics, the school leader has rated themselves as a 4. The others are lower. Now, the caveat in here is if they are significantly different. They're not. They're all within the same rating, but you can still see that there's a difference. This would be called an unknown development area because you see yourself higher than what other people see you. But if you go down to leading learning and look at the second in from the left, results orientation, and the third, curriculum instruction and assessment, you'll see that the school leader rated themselves lower than did the other ratings. And this is an unknown strength to the school leader. You're not seeing yourself as highly as others are. So you may want to step back and review that to get a better understanding of what you are doing in your school. So this just gives you another way to look at the overall ratings that you're seeing. Then you may sit there and go, gee, I really wish I remembered what questions or what items led to this result, and you'll get those. So you'll also get by the category relationships, each of the questions that led to on this, if you look at relationships, which is the center one under building culture, you'll see that the leader was a little lower than the other respondents. Well, when you look at this and you look at the first question, which is sustains effective partnerships with the broader community to achieve school success, you'll see that the school leader disagreed that they did that, or strongly disagreed that they did that. But everyone in the school community agreed. That's brought the school leader's response lower than the others. You can also look to see, is there any particular group that's responding lower than others? So, for example, on the third question in relationships, fosters relationships among members of the school community to create a sense of belonging. You see that the non-certified staff agreed, but they agree a little bit lower than do other groups. This is a hard one to look at because everyone thinks the school leader is a superhero, but it gives you the idea of how you can look at this, and you'll be able to see the differences in your groups for each of the questions that lead to that particular dimension. And at the bottom, it gives you some guidance on how to reflect on your scores. So for example, what are your behaviors that are particularly strong or weak? and where there are large differences among your groups. So it sort of guides you in how to use this particular part of your report. Then at the very end, you get open-ended responses from your community that are anonymous across 3 separate questions. And what we found from our participants is they really appreciated getting these because they're not responses to the structured questions, but they're thoughts that people want to share with you. So there are 3 questions. One is provide your principal one suggestion that would strengthen his or her leadership. And you can see such things as ask for feedback and follow up on the feedback that is provided. Focus on academic learning and skills. So you can see what your community thinks. And we always know that there's one person in the school community that's always going to tell you what they want you to do differently. But you also may get some helpful suggestions if you see the same thing mentioned over and over. And then what is the one thing that they could stop doing that would enhance? Well, you can see in this one, can't think of anything, unsure. At this time, I don't have anything I believe they should stop doing. But then you'll also see other things, see people for what they are. So it can give you some information. And I'm saving the best for last, which is what's one thing that your principal is doing well that he or she could continue doing. So what you're seeing is it really provides positive feedback to you on the things that you do and do well. So you're getting your school's voice from this survey, and it's a way that you could work collectively with your team on what's working well in your school and what you could do differently. We have piloted this. We're feeling really confident with the survey now because it's very psychometrically valid. There's a 0.991 reliability for those of you who are statistic wonks. It shows that no matter when you take it or where you're taking it, you should get similar results. And we thought it was interesting. These are just very few of the responses we got back. But a North Carolina middle school principal said, I've already begun reflecting and even started a new initiative based on the results. He didn't use the newest. And I would absolutely recommend this survey to my colleagues. It's reflective practice and pedagogy of a lifelong learner. And I think that the final one, it's deeper than other panoramic surveys we're taking. So very intentionally and purposefully from the school leaders that developed this, what are the questions that would really lead to me understanding my practice and what does that mean for me? So we're feeling good that this survey is doing what it was designed to do. And if you've got questions along the way, please add them in. And if we don't have time to answer them now, we will answer them in an email. That was the leadership survey. Coming soon will be a school culture survey that's very similar. It will ask 5 questions to each dimension. The difference is it will be people's perceptions about the culture in your school. And the evaluator list will expand to include students, parents, and community members. The look and feel of the survey will be identical. The report will be the same. It's just the questions and the resulting information will be related to culture and not leadership. So that's the school leadership survey that will be released by our conference in July. Now moving on, and this is the fun part that's in development right now, we're developing an online assessment tool that is responsive. It's asynchronous. That means you don't have to take it with everyone else at a particular time on a particular day. The whole assessment tool should only take 4 hours to respond, but you can take 2 weeks to go in and out of the different tasks based on how your schedule allows. It's interactive, and we think that input will guide reflection, goal setting. You'll go to the tool, and in addition to going to the assessment itself, you'll be able to go to an interactive tutorial, and that tutorial will help you test to see if your equipment's right, if your interface works, so you'll understand the tool itself. And then when you look at it, it actually simulates a day in the life of the principal. So when you look at this, does this sort of look like your desktop? You'll see the types of tasks that you have to do in a day. You'll see on the left-hand side, it looks like your inbox. On the right-hand side, you have a calendar, and it's performance-based. They're all authentic exercises that were developed by your colleagues of what it actually looks like when you do this in your school. And among the features that you can access it from anywhere on any device. And then the reports, as in your last report, will provide actionable output. So when you look at this and you see on the left-hand side, for example, Bright Star Reading Program meeting tomorrow, that's coming from the assistant superintendent. You're pretty much going to figure you want to open it sooner rather than later. And you can see that each of these activities will have attachments that you can review to provide your response. Some of these, like on the left-hand side, you can see the teacher morale that was at 9 a.m. is a talk with your supervisor. Because it's gray, you've completed it, and you will then receive other emails in your box. At your bottom under your to-do list will be an actual activity that you'll be expected to complete. They're fun and engaging. The principals who are on the committee sat and went through it, and they said, I feel like I was back at school again. It requires me to use those skills that I use at school. But it broadens to innovation, it broadens to global, it broadens to wellness, those particular tasks that are new with the ESSA requirements, things you've always been doing but haven't gotten the credit for. The rubric is very interesting that it goes from preparation level. So this can be used if you're taking a higher education program. You could go through the assessment center, and if all of your responses fall in the preparation level, that's great. You've mastered everything you needed to do going through that program. If you are at the novice level, a first-year principal, then the expectation would be you're approaching competency, and that's what it looks like. Proficient goes on and will show full competency, and if you're accomplished, you'll demonstrate mastery. What does that look like in your report? So as you see, this is an individual report. Collaborative leadership was in 4 of the tasks: anti-bullying, curriculum dilemma, teacher hiring, and teacher morale. For anti-bullying, this particular person, and let me reassure you, while you saw in the assessments that in the survey, those were real principals and they were all up at the top level. What you're seeing is here where people were doing user acceptance testing and they were just answering things randomly. They did not do as well as you do as school leaders. So because you're seeing novice and those particular reports here, that's not what a real principal did. This is user acceptance testing. If you get all novices, you would have all reds going straight down. All proficient, they would all blue. Advanced gets the gold. But it does allow, if you did not submit for whatever reason, it will show your score as not submitted. So it's not that you didn't do well, you didn't submit. If it's underdeveloped, that means you did not perform at the preparation level. And if you're in higher ed, that's an important thing for them to understand. So you get a report not only by dimension, but also it lets you know how you did in each of the tasks that are related to that. So it's very informative. If you're working with your colleagues in your district, and you could discuss who did this, who got mastery in this, and will you partner with me on this? Another example is a sample report that shows you on bar charts. You can look across and see nothing is underdeveloped. There are 2 at preparation, and all the rest are scoring above. So it gives you a real-time way to look at your results. So more importantly is, how do you use these? They are not measures for evaluation. These are all products that you can use for growth. And there's not a particular entry point. You don't have to start with the framework in the book. You could do one of the surveys and get those feedbacks. You can drop in and out at any point of continuous learning. You could start at innovation. You could decide you want to drop in and look at vision and mission with your school team. Answer the reflection questions, pick one strategy for the year. With that strategy, there are multiple resources that you could use. You could have a book group. There are many things you could do. So you could do it only individually. You could do it with your leadership team. You can include your whole school team with one particular strategy that you want to improve for that year. So there are multiple ways to enter. There are multiple ways to use the resources, to engage your team for your own practice. It all leads to your success, because how you build the culture and lead the learning, and the more of them that are in the center of the Venn diagram, the more successful you'll be. We do invite you to attend the National Principals Conference that will be in July 11th through 13th in Chicago. All of the presentations are submitted by practicing principals, were reviewed by practicing principals. We're going to have in our hub, which you would traditionally call the exhibit hall, innovation playgrounds where practicing principals are bringing their students to show makerspace, Fab Lab, really great experiences. We'll also have sessions around these Building Ranks products if you want more hands-on experience with the products themselves. So with that, I thank you. If you have any questions, you can reach me, and we're going to check right now to see if people have additional questions. We have one question where someone asked, can I be part of the pilot for the assessment center? We would love to have any of you as pilots as part of the assessment center pilot. You can just email me with your name and we'll make sure you're included. Another question was around, do I have to, when can I purchase the book? And that will be starting at the conference in July. If you have additional questions, please feel free to email me at octorj@nassp.org. We thank you for attending and hope to see you soon.